Many thanks for choosing us. The Public Utility Regulatory Commission is scheduled to meet stakeholders on the upcoming tariff adjustments. Already, the Ghana Water Company Limited and the ECG have made proposals for upward adjustments in tariffs to help boost their operation. ECG alone is asking for 148% increment in tariffs. We'll be crossing over to the Aliza Hotel, where the PURC is meeting CSOs and other stakeholders. But first, let's gauge the mood of some of the stakeholders that are going to meet the PURC. I've been joined by Ben Boakye, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Boakye. First, what do you make of the ECG's proposal for 148% increase?
Thanks for having me, Asha. I think at this point it's only a proposal. That proposal will be interrogated by PURC and stakeholders. Fortunately, we have opportunity this morning to get into those numbers and appreciate what ECG is thinking. But I doubt that the Commission will grant that quantum leap in tariff when just last year or so they didn't see the need to actually adjust the tariffs for them. So that's where we are. It's a proposal at this point. But if you look at the trend and the escalation of cost and also the depreciation of the currency, I don't see how the tariff would remain the same. It will definitely go up, but how much it will go up remains to be seen after the consultation.
From what you know, is it justifiable to make such demand?
I'm not sure 148 is justifiable. I think the assumption over time was that ECG could improve its efficiency to pass on some relief to the consumer. And that was the basis for some of the reductions that we saw in 2018. But it appears that they have not been able to improve efficiency to really pass on any benefit to the consumer. They are still insisting that we should give them commercial and technical losses of about 23% for 2022, which is still high when they had a benchmark of around 21% in 2016. So we want to hear from them why they think we should adjust it by that quantum, and then interrogate why they have failed over time to improve efficiency and revenue collection, to also achieve the same end of improving revenue flow to the entity.
Let's look at you as a stakeholder at this meeting coming up shortly. What case are you going to be making at this meeting?
I think for us, we need to come to that point, and we will be telling PURC that they have been regulating the inefficiency, and it has become a business as usual, that they will create the debt, they will be inefficient, and still come for tariffs to go and clear those inefficiencies. What they cannot pass on, then it is passed on to the budget or for us to pay through other forms of taxes. We have to look at the industry and streamline it to make it, functional and effective, such that we don't need government subvention when people are paying their bill, to be able to run the power sector. And that decision is really crucial. It's crunch at this point. You cannot have a power sector that requires more than $1 billion. Last year, 2021, the Ministry of Finance had to look for $1.25 billion to pay for the under-recovery of PURC in the power sector. And that is unacceptable. We are not spending that much on road construction, on education, or on health infrastructure. So why would we keep, pumping that much money into the power sector when efficiency can actually address those issues? And government has to own up to say that it has failed to address the issue over time. And therefore, we need to now decide how we address this issue. In 2 years, we have pumped about $14 billion, $1 billion Ghana cedis into the power sector. And that cannot continue to drain the resources of our country.
So what would be ideal for consumers as far as tariff adjustments are concerned, Mr. Boakye?
I think for the consumer, you have to brace up for some adjustment. We do not know how much yet. That will be the job of PRC to actually do. Some adjustments will definitely happen, and we have to brace the floor for that.
What are your expectations as a consumer yourself?
My expectation is that it will go up. I don't know the numbers. The PRC has the model. We don't have the model that runs the tariff. We have the model, but we have to make sure that the variables that are going to get into the model is very optimal. The variables are optimal to ensure that the consumer is not necessarily burdened by higher tariff.
But let me gauge your mood on this. I mean, yes, upwards adjustment is inevitable, but the services we are getting from the service providers, I mean, just suppose the two, is it worth it for consumers to pay more? Hello, Mr. Boache. All right, I think we lost Ben Boache there, but he made the point that over the period there's been so much adjustments upwards, and government must own up to the fact that it has failed and must look at how to resolve the issues. The question I put to him was whether services provided can be equated to how much money they are demanding. The ECG, for instance, is demanding 148% upwards adjustment, and we're looking at that vis-a-vis the services being provided by the ECG for consumers. I mean, is it worth it for consumers to pay that amount of money? When I get him back, he will try. All right, Mr. Boache, if you're back, I'm asking you to look at the services being provided by these service providers, ECG, Ghana Water Company Limited, and what have you. I mean, are we getting the best services so that we'll be happy to pay more for these services?
The services can definitely improve. So what we have to make sure is that we're paying the right price for the quantum of either water or electricity that you consume. It is for them to also improve the service so they can recover a lot more revenue. The fact of the matter is that electricity, when generated, has to be consumed or paid for. And in this case, we have been paying for power that we shouldn't pay for because the consumer didn't even consume it in the first place. But ECB is looking for a tariff to pay for electricity that you have not consumed. And we have to push that conversation to ensure that in the long term, that doesn't continue to happen.
Is it a case of transferring their losses for the consumer to bear the brunt? Just like you're saying, we're paying for power that we've not used.
Yeah, so if you check the tariff structure, we have distribution service 1 and distribution service 2. The 2 is actually the inefficiencies that ECG generates. And that is also passed on to the consumer. And that becomes part of the tariff. So if they were able to improve the system and reduce the inefficiency, that could be a benefit passed on to the consumer. And that could have even ensured that we don't increase the tariff as we're doing currently. So they need to improve the efficiency of the system to pass on the benefit to the consumer.
Ben Boache, I'm grateful for your time this morning. He's the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. We'll be bringing you more from that stakeholder meeting at Aliza Hotel with the PURC in our subsequent bulletins. Now, governments of Ghana and Togo have come to a consensus to reaffirm their international borderlines. This is to ensure a clear demarcation of the land borders of both countries. 50 international boundary pillars would be constructed along the international boundary lines from Aplau to Akano in Ghana and from Lome to Nuepe in Togo. This forms the first phase of the reaffirmation exercise supported by GIZ Africa Union Border Program. There's more in this report by Fred Kwame Sare.
Pillars were first erected on the international boundary lines of Ghana and Togo in 1929 and later in 1975. However, human and natural activities have eroded most of the pillars erected on the international boundary lines. In line with this, Both countries saw the need to reaffirm the international boundary lines to clearly indicate the land borders, help security officials identify their limits, prevent land encroachment, among others. A joint land boundary reaffirmation technical committee has thus been instituted, tasked to undertake the reaffirmation exercise. As part of the exercise, the committee would undertake sensitization programs in Ghana and Togo, launch and supervise the construction of 50 international boundary pillars from Aflao to Akanu in Ghana and from Lomé to Nuepe in Togo. Speaking at the sensitization program in Aflao, the German ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Daniel Kroll, detailed that the GIZ Africa Union Border Program supported the exercise with the sole aim of preventing conflict.
And so for us, our engagement, our assistance to this program of the African Union and to this program that will start here today, it is about conflict prevention. We want to help to make life easier in border regions. It is not about dividing, it's not about taking people, families apart, it's just about making a clear demarcation, the base for more legal cross-border cooperation and flows.
The national coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia, detailed that 4 kinds of international pillars would be erected.
And it has been mentioned and clarified that what we are doing is reaffirmation. We are not coming in to redemarcate our boundaries. The first pillar is a singular one that is going to be like a monument. It's going to be pillar 1. That is going to be between Aflao and Lomé, and it's not very far from this direction. And that is called pillar 1. It's also called the land boundary terminus. That is the last pillar that terminates into the maritime domain of Ghana and Togo. So that is pillar 1, and the design of that pillar is completely different. Apart from that pillar, we are going to have 3 main boundary pillars. Depending on the nature of the ground, they could be dispersed from 6 kilometers to 13 kilometers. And there are going to be 3 main pillars running from this area up to Accra. And we are going to have intermediate pillars between the main pillars. We have introduced another new dimension. Probably this is the first time we're introducing it in Africa between Ghana and Togo. What we are going to introduce is that we're going to have border crossing pillars. Now, what we realize between us and our Togolese counterparts is that at the various crossing sites where we have our immigration officials and counterparts from Togo deployed, sometimes when there is no pillar, it's very difficult for you to determine the boundary line. So what we are doing is that at every crossing point, we are going to have a pillar there, irrespective of the intermediate boundary pillar or the main pillars. So that is an understanding. So that at every crossing point at Sege, at Poglo, you will see, from the Ghana side, you will see a pillar there called a border crossing pillar there. In total, we expected to construct approximately no more than 50 pillars, of course. And that is going to form the first phase of the pillar.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, underscored the importance of the boundary reaffirmation exercise.
Permit me to state that the joint reaffirmation of the international boundary line will also serve as a tool for safeguarding the peace and security of both Ghana and Togo, considering the nature of emerging security threats emanating along the West African region. In recent times, emerging security issues and cross-border crimes, such as terrorism, smuggling, human trafficking, proliferation of small arms and light weapons, drug trafficking, armed robbery, among others, have engulfed the West African region. It is therefore imperative that Ghana and Togo reaffirm our boundaries to prevent the prevalence of transnational organized crimes across the borders.
The rep of the Togolese local government minister, Bakai Boaibadi, assured of the cooperation and support of the Togolese government towards the success of the exercise. Citizens along the boundaries were urged to report activities that may threaten the existence of the international boundary pillars. The Joint Land Boundary Reaffirmation Technical Committee would undertake the construction of the 50 international pillars between 12 and 28 May 2022. Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews.
The Constitution was ratified in a referendum on April 28, 1992 and was passed. However, after 3 decades of constitutional rule in Ghana, there have been calls for it to be reformed. There's more in this report.
On April 28, 1992, the Constitution of Ghana was approved by referendum. But at the 2022 Annual Constitution Lecture Week on the theme 3 decades of uninterrupted constitutional law, revisiting the agenda for reforms organized by the National Commission for Civic Education, His Lordship Justice Gabriel Pamang called on people requesting for the total reform of the Constitution to take into consideration the human rights enshrined in the Constitution.
It is relevant to note that one remarkable characteristic of the present calls for amendment is that all actors involved, political parties, civil society groups, and academics agree that there is a need for some adjustments to be made to the Constitution. The divisions arise only around the extent which those divisions should cover. Whereas others call for a complete overhaul of the whole document, some are of the more minimalist approach requiring the amendments of particular provisions. To those who call for the total overhaul, my advice is that there is no one-size-fits-all in democratic governance structure the world over. I say democratic governance structure because some others make calls for total change of the Constitution as if they have a problem with even the basic structure of the Constitution, including the human rights provisions.
According to the acting chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Kathleen Addy, basic schools across the country will be engaged on how to sustain Ghana's democracy.
This program will be replicated at the regional level. Every regional capital will have a program like this with the people in that region, and we will gather all the information, all the insights, all the highlights from all the programs that we will hold in the 16 regions, and we will combine it what we've done today, and we will put together a document, and hopefully that becomes a foundation for to trigger the process for constitutional reforms. And then I also mentioned that in the basic schools, this year we are targeting 10,000 basic schools for Constitution Week. That means that we will go to the schools and hold programs and engage with them.
On getting Ghanaians educated on the laws of Ghana, the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Owusu, charged the NCCE to step up efforts to educate the citizens on the Constitution.
If we amend the Constitution, any part of it, would that bring transparency into it? If we amended any part of the Constitution, would that make the everyday person honest? Thank you. For me, that's a critical question. And my suggestion is, we are focusing too much on documents and individuals and categorizing politicians. No, we should deal with the culture of the people. But the democracies we adore elsewhere are practiced within a certain culture, a certain practice, a certain ethics, which we don't have often.
Ghana's political history and the longevity that the 1992 Constitution has enjoyed after the toppling of 3 prior Republican constitutions are worth commemorating after 30 years of constitutional governance. Tasha Michelle's report for JoyNews.
We can now go live to the Alisa Hotel, where GNPC is currently making a presentation at the PURC stakeholder engagement.
The price that we give or we propose to PURC. Based on the principles or guidelines of PURC, which is they use weighted average to determine.
Apologies for that break. We'll take you back there when we get the feed. But police in Tamale say they have intensified investigations into the arrest of a gang of 3 men with arms and ammunition on the Wale Tamale Highway. Regional Crime Officer Superintendent Bernard Baba Ananga, confirming to JoyNews, said some persons believed to be linked to the crime have since been invited to assist in the investigation. He indicated one Alhaji Mohammed Shani, a businessman and an MPP politician in the Northeast region, was part of those of the police are looking to question in connection with the arrest. Speaking to JoyNews, he said Alhaji Mohammed Shani confirmed his invitation by the police while denying any involvement in the matter.
Police in Tamale has confirmed the invitation of one Alhaji Mohammed Sani for questioning in connection with the arrest of 3 armed men on the Wale Tamale Highway. The suspects, including 2 Nigerians and a Ghanaian, were arrested last week with a loaded AK-47 rifle and other arms by the highway police at Kukwabla near Nasia in the Northeast region. Alhaji Sani, who is a businessman and a chairman aspirant of the New Patriotic Party in the Northeast region, confirmed his invitation to JoyNews.
Yes, one police sergeant called me and told me that they want to see me in Tamale regional command.
Have you been there, sir?
Not yet. When I ask him, he said when I come, he will tell me.
He also confirmed his intention to honor the police invitation, denying any involvement in the matter.
But I've not done anything like that.
Following the arrest, the suspect allegedly told the police they were on a mission to assassinate an MPP executive in the region. In my earlier interview with the Regional Crime Officer Superintendent Bernard Baba Ananga, I asked him about the report which has been widely reported by a section of the press.
As we speak, we are still investigating, still gathering intelligence, still looking at one way or the other. Though we didn't come to our radar any person that was targeted to be robbed. For criminals or set characters, they can do any other thing. When you are investigating a case and suspects are in custody, of course you will have other suspects that you need to arrest. There are accomplices out there, especially you look at the source, look at the destination. You also look at the other persons that you think may help in the investigations. There are some people that we think who may assist us in our investigations, which we are inviting them for that.
According to sources within the police, Alhaji Sani, who received his invitation more than a week now, is yet to deliver himself up. Superintendent Baba Ananga said the police are giving the Alhaji enough opportunity to willingly honor the invitation. He said failure to do that, the police will use other means necessary to ensure all those linked to the crime per their investigation are held to account. From Nalirgo, Ilyasu Tanko reporting for JoyNews.
I'm back here in the studio and in Accra. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. As part of efforts to boost vaccine manufacturing capacity in the ECOWAS region, the Director General of the West African Health Organization has challenged member states to step up research efforts that would enable them to produce their own molecules for vaccine production. There's more in this report.
In the economic community of West African states, COVID-19 cases has continued to increase for the past 2 years. The sub-region has recorded 837,442 cases, representing 7.3%, with 11,348 deaths, representing 4.5%, and a case fatality rate of 14% as of May 1st, 2022. Given the vulnerability of the ECOWAS population to the COVID-19 pandemic and other diseases, the Director General of the West African Health Organization, Professor Stanley Okolo, is urging member states to consider producing their own vaccines, as well as building more human resources for the manufacturing of vaccines.
The issue of ensuring that we promote and bring in research to bear, but there are other areas that are key. Power, electricity. It is very key. And if you look at some of the things that I understand is going on in Ghana, where you have some industrial zones, and in those industrial zones, government tries to prioritize electricity supply. And that is very important, because you then see that that's one way to. The next thing is capacity, in terms of intellectual capacity, in terms of human resources. We really need to start supporting a lot. I mean, for us in WAHO, we have given nearly 44 across the region postgraduate scholarships in shortage areas. Not necessarily specifically for manufacturing, but in shortage areas. And these are some of the things that we also have to be thinking of. And then finally, we have this integrated work with the Department of Industry and private sector, where we are looking at what are the precursors, the active pharmaceutical ingredients that we have in the region. We do have some, but the difficulty for manufacturers is that we don't produce them in commercial quantities. But what I'm challenging us is to think about also the research in order to start producing our own molecules and how we can do this.
Speaking on the intellectual property of manufactured vaccines, this is what he had to say.
If you remember, take your mind back to what happened with HIV. When HIV, anti-HIV drugs were produced, they were extremely expensive. Okay, but then the United States government came in and other global partners and said, no, we've got to make this the intellectual property in terms of the patency. We've got to release this so that generics are produced, so that those generics are then cheaper to save lives in particularly third world countries that HIV was ravaging at the time. So why can't we apply the same thing? I mean, this is a global pandemic that's affected everybody, and this is an opportunity to have. So we have to think about that. But if you think about it for Africa, we're talking about asking people to give us things, isn't it? That is still the same thing with what we therefore need to start thinking of. Why? We've got the brains. Why can't we then focus, invest in it, and ensure that we give them the mandate and the political will to go ahead and discover some of our own? Cuba can do it. Other people can do it. Believe you me, we can do it. The things that we need is to, first of all, say that there must be an unrelenting, laser focus on it. That's number one. Number two, to say, look, we are not going to care which country it is, but let it be an African or West African component, and we can do that.
The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has shown gaps in the health system of the ECOWAS region, thus the need to discuss issues pertaining ECOWAS potential vaccine manufacturers and stakeholders. Mausi Newman's report for JoyNews.
Now, starting today, May 11, 2022, if you board a bus from Accra to other regions, you're likely to pay at least 20% more on your old fares. This is a notice from the long-distance drivers at the Newplant station. GPRTU on Monday unilaterally increased transport fares. Although these drivers are part of the union, they tell JoyNews they are yet to increase their fares and are waiting for official correspondence from their leadership. Michael Ashali has more.
From Wednesday, patrons of intercity buses at the Newplant Transport Yard should expect to pay at least 20% more on transport fares.
My name is Kwabno Usu Elias Abe, Chief Driver of Newplant Branch Number 4, from Accra to Wenchi. Yes.
Have you increased fares already? I want to understand if you heard that other drivers have done that.
As of now, we haven't increased any fare. We haven't increased any fare.
Why is that so?
Our elders told us that they will bring the fare on Wednesday. So we are waiting for them for the new fare on Wednesday.
Although their mother union, GPRTU, has increased fares by 20%, these drivers explain the percentage wasn't enough.
We can't afford it. My full load is, before they take the booking fee, I left with 25 million. I used to buy 20 million from here to Wenchi, so I left with only 5 million in my hand from all of my sales. We are found very, very, very difficult. If you are told you can't afford in the house of crowd, we can't do anything. If you are told you don't have any trouble in the in our journey. So from here to Wenchi, if I reach nothing, they are going to increase about 20%. Okay.
We can now go back to Alisa Hotel and pick live the stakeholder consultation by PURC.
The commodity, the weighted average commodity cost, that's the first line. So for 2022, 6.5206 per MMBTU. Then we have the weighted aggregate service charge or cost, which will be 1.3937. And so together we have 7.9143. But importantly, this does not include the transportation and processing charge for GNGC, what we'll be paying GNGC for processing and transporting our gas. And also what we'll be paying the regulator as a regulatory levy. These will have to be added to the 7.9 to get what in our estimation should then be the gas price for this year. And then it follows like that for the outer years. This only gives you the details of what you saw in the previous slide, so we can move on to next. Yeah, and this gives us the assumption that we have around the volumes. So what we will offtake is shown at the top half, and then what the commitment is then shown at the bottom half of the slide. So to conclude, GMPC would want to highlight the relevance of this multi-year approach to tariffing. We think that would bring in a lot of certainty in the tariff process, and that would be beneficial to the sector, and we commend PURC for that. The next thing we want to highlight is that the landscape for gas in Ghana has changed dramatically. We had some time when we were only taking free gas. We started with N-gas, which we were paying for, but with all the interruptions and all the outages that we had, for significant amount of time, we were only taking free gas and nobody was paying for it. And so the sector became almost accustomed to free gas, but that should have come to an end much longer or much earlier. We have kind of allowed it to linger up to this time. We have, because we have the Jubilee gas still coming in for free. But like I said, that is ending this year. And so any opportunity we have for free gas is not going to be available anymore. And so we should be ready to pay, not only to pay for gas, but to pay for gas at the right price. And our appeal to PURC is to take the full costs and recognize those costs. Of course, where there are excesses, those excesses should be taken out, but the actual cost should be made to stay. And in line with this, therefore, we are requesting that PURC, you've got the program to be reviewing or adjusting your tariffs quarterly. And our request is that this should be adhered to, and then to ensure that all the changes in the course of the year are reflected. We had a rather maybe unpleasant situation where since 2019 there hasn't been any change. So every year prices change. Some of them even change quarterly, but they are not reflected in the current price. So we would request that PURC please take that into account. The last thing to mention is that now the tariff that is determined by PURC, I think, is taking even more significance, because there are other government initiatives that are using that to do all kinds of things, take decisions that affect the entire sector, like the cash waterfall mechanism, which now allocates the revenues that ECG makes from sale of electricity. That is distributed to all the beneficiaries or the entities that are supposed to benefit from that. And we expect that to continue. And so if that is going to be the basis for this allocation, then we would all expect that PURC would come up with adequate costs covering, or adequate tariff covering everybody's costs so that everybody can get the right share of that. And on this note, I would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. Now we'll do Ghana Gas.
You can put it here. Okay, no problem. It says to be fine.
Executive Secretary of the PURC will soon address the media and also tell us what the stakeholder meeting is all about. We'll be taking you back there for more on this. But right now, Ibri Girls School has put on ice for at least 1 year Methodist Girls' quest for local glory after they beat them and 2 other schools to qualify for the 2022 National Science and Maths Quiz Championship. The ladies from McGee's were confident Ebugi's will be a walkover. But at the end of the contest, Methodist girls' laurels in international competitions like the World RoboFest Championship did not matter in the NSMQ as Ebugi's triumphed. It ended with Ibri Girls 43 points, Kweuta for SHS 37 points, Mamfi Methodist Girls SHS 20 points, and Salvation Army SHS 13 points. Maxwell Agbagba has more from the Eastern region.
Ibri Girls just qualified for the National Championship. Your last NSMQ outing was in the 2021 National Championship. In fact, in that contest, it was 3 Presbyterian schools, Suhum Presec, and then we had Kobo Girls in that contest. Ibri Girls was also in that contest. Suhum Presec won with 40 points. Ibri Girls 37 points. Kobo Girls also 37 points. They've qualified here at the Nat Hall in the Eastern region for the regional qualifiers, and they're making their way to the National Championship. Let's speak to the contestants.
I'm Esther Usu Edu. I'm very excited. Honestly, I thought we would lose, but by the grace of God, we have sailed through. We give all the glory to God. He wasn't happy for them. He wasn't happy for the other schools.
Okay. What's your name?
Rabi Perez, the CAG.
Okay. What should we expect in the National Championship?
The best.
The best. Is it the best? What exactly?
Yeah. See, we actually didn't think we would come this far, but we asked the Lord to bring us this far, and He came through for us. So we are asking that the Lord will take us to higher levels.
Okay. What does an NSMQ mean to you guys? What does it mean to you guys? NSMQ.
It means a lot. It means a whole lot to us.
All students, Ibri Girls. Tell me, what does an NSMQ victory mean to you? What's your name? Fantastic. Hey. What's your name?
Lydia Frieusu. It means so much to us because last year, though we made it to the regional qualifiers, the prelims didn't really go well for us, and we just went through narrowly as highest losing school, as one of the highest losing schools. So we wanted a dominant win, a clear win. not a second option or a second door kind of win, and we had it today. Though it wasn't easy. It was a bit scary at a point, but so far as we are big close to hand, we will shine.
Okay, Miss Rachel, I believe the girls. I have seen them on several occasions, and as quiz mistress, even Kaufman is a quiz mistress who is an old girl from Every Girls, and I'm also an old girl from Every Girls. I believe them, and this year we are going to do wonders.
We're going to do wonders.
Sure.
Okay, we'll be waiting for that.
Sure. Expect us.
Thanks for talking to us. Last song. Wait. Our school is built on a hill.
De paso hane samoto, we are always victorious as we work in God's name. Oh, every girls, oh, every girls, oh, every mighty eagles, we shall never, ever, ever lose our faith. Oh, every girls, oh, every girls, oh, every mighty eagles, we shall never, ever, ever lose our faith.
Maybe you want to wait and see how it goes at the national championship. Maybe the girls will make it. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you the very latest from the world of business.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Ghana is winning itself off reliance on space technology from the West to monitor water resources. The Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Educhum, has told a cross-section of tech and research experts at a conference organized by the United Nations. Now, launching the high-level conference, Dr. Yao Educhum announced that government has embarked on an ambitious educational reform in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to create a pipeline of future space researchers and scientists for Ghana's water management projects.
When we know that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, we cannot do this, and Africa cannot be an active participant without improving its human capital base. I don't want a situation where we are relying on the space technology of other nations to do our water management. Africa must wake up to understand that it's not going to be a case where we rely on the space technology, the hardware and the software from other countries, and we are just observers. At best, we become consumers of the research that is done in other places. Therefore, when we look at our capacity to fully participate in this, we have to think about how do we improve science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. So that when we talk about using space technology in monitoring water resources, it's not just us reading the research from the West. But what is happening behind the scenes that gives us the research should be equally important to us. Are we creating opportunity for our young men and women to participate in STEM? So they will be building some of the spacecrafts, and they'll be writing the software. And we are not being asked to purchase the software license at an amount sometimes we cannot afford to even purchase it because our people are not writing the software. So in Ghana, the President of the Republic has decided that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education should have priority. As I speak with you, we've opened 5 high schools focusing on STEM, 1 exclusive.
Meanwhile, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Professor Elvis Asare-Bediako, tells Joy Business there is the need for more synergy to be created amongst researchers, industry, and policy makers on matters concerning water management.
There's a lot of effort from different institutions, but the key issue here is that we want to stop trying to sit in the classroom or just academia doing their work and policymakers are on different side. we must come together, and that was what I said today at GTV, that the academia and the industry and the policymakers must come together in order for us to see how we can move forward. Let me mention that for us to fight corruption, one of the ways is using space technology. For example, if we want to really know whether our efforts on stopping Galamsey was really working or not, if we use space technology, we can be able to tell in reality whether the efforts on the ground really worked. So that is why, as a country, we need to push forward to see how we can do some of these things.
What do you think is accounting for the disconnect between academia, industry and policymakers?
The disconnect is as a result of the fact that over the years we have not seen research driving policy. I think this is where we have had a problem. Research must drive policy, and those in research must be what? Motivated to bring in innovations that can change our fortunes. China was able to do it because of research. India was able to do it because of research. Even Rwanda. In fact, let me mention that Rwandan Space Agency visited Ghana to come to our university to even learn. So you see that people are coming to our country to learn from some institutions and going back and implementing. So we must rise up and take up the opportunity.
Now, with a strategy to attract and appeal to contemporary consumers, KFC Ghana has signed musician Kidi as its new brand ambassador. Speaking at the unveiling ceremony, marketing manager Chris Adosakode said the company hopes to expand in the coming years, therefore, is reason to associate with the Kidi brand.
Since its inception in Ghana in 2011, the KFC brand has strived to match up the growing demands of its consumers. With dynamic consumers, the brand is set to expand and become more appealing to the public. Thus, its signing of Kidi as its new brand ambassador. Speaking at the unveiling ceremony, marketing manager for KFC Ghana, Chris Adosakode, gives reason for the collaboration.
We felt the need to associate ourselves with a brand that also has got the same values that we also, have. We know Kidi as a fire brand. If you look at the number of followers that he has, if you look at his virtues, if you look at how he has grown, from the hitmaker days to where he is right now, we definitely felt that, with the pace at which we want to grow, and looking at somebody that can tag along with us to ensure that we are growing at the pace that we want, getting in a lot of footfalls within our restaurants, getting in a lot of consumers, enjoying and purchasing KFC. We definitely felt the need that he's the right person for us to work with.
Kidi, who won this year's Vodafone Ghana Music Awards Artist of the Year, said he's excited to be associated with the KFC brand and hopes to push the agenda and impact the lives of the consumers.
I look forward to amazing things to come. It's crazy because when my team told me we're going to do this, I was like, this is probably destiny, because I chew chicken, KFC chicken a lot. It's crazy. So thank you so much. Like I said, more activities ahead, more growth for both brands, for us, and we hope for the best for the future. Let's enjoy and eat more chicken.
Meanwhile, KFC lovers in Central Region are to brace themselves as the company announces its first ever branch to be opened at Pedu in Cape Coast.
I am very happy to also inform you that our 27th restaurant, which is the first quick service restaurant in the whole of Central Region, will be open on coming Thursday at Pedu in Cape Coast.
Ifwa Aprekua Boafo's report read to you.
Great stuff, and sports is coming up next.